Thank you for reaching out to me. It was a bit of a cold open, but we're both in the entertainment industry, so I'm always open to networking with new people.
So where is it
And
now? Are you in California now?
I'm in Los Angeles right now.
And you were meeting with me at 7 a.m. Bless you. I really appreciate that.
Well, I am a very busy man. I mean, some have said that I'm an insomniac. So I have a lot going on, a lot I'm juggling. So
I feel
I'll
like,
work it in the routine.
yeah, I mean, when you're passionate about so many different things and when things are going, like it's easy to not just like fill your day with busybody stuff, but like, no, I'm productively getting things done and it feels good to be able to do everything. So thank you very much for taking the time this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm happy to tell you a little bit about what we're up to, but if we are going to potentially, this is great because we are looking to constantly create more videos and traction and things that will be put out on our social media and stuff. If you'd like, I'd love if you could tell us a little bit of your story and what you're up to and what you've been building with casting talent and, all that kind of stuff.
Right. So to preface everything, I've been in the entertainment industry for over 12 years. And I started off working in E&G for a local access network in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Nice.
And I pivoted from there towards grip work. I also went to film school 10 years ago, or 11 years now. And I went from online editing towards being a grip, cinematographer, producer, and I've switched between producing and cinematography. So I have proficiency in both. I've produced and shot commercials that aired national TV. I've also produced feature films. I have a feature that's I produced 5 years ago on Amazon. It's called Halitosis: The Legend of Snake Mouth.
Okay.
Now that's admittedly a B movie, but not everybody gets to produce an Oscar movie as their first feature.
Of course not. That's really impressive to get anything out on a streaming service and stuff, especially, a few years ago when it wasn't as much of a big deal of like, they weren't just taking, like that was still them being really, really close about the few things they had on there. So that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, and considering that I went to the American film market and I had the interest of 20 plus distributors, and I secured distribution through to over 23 countries. So it's a fun little movie. Not my magnum opus, not yet, but it's something that I accomplished.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations. Wow. Well, cool. And so what brings you to, so it sounded like you're kind of running some of your own businesses now or working with some other people to what's that world like for you? How did that happen?
Well, I've switched between entertainment and bird dogging, and I've been in other industries. So for those that don't know, a bird dog is somebody who is basically a networker who connects money and talent, or in my case, investors and business opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I work closely with business brokers and realtors. And then I have my investor contacts and interested buyer prospects, merge them together. We close some deals and I get my commission. So that's what a bird dog does.
Yeah. And that's, that's in some places, I feel like some producers attempt to do that, but not everybody can do that as well. So that's awesome that you're like, no, I officially know how to get that stuff done.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, it does pay to have a lot of social etiquette. A lot of people, they lack communication skills, and that really, it puts a bottleneck on their potential.
Yes. I mean, because you can definitely go from like, hey, I have IQ, but if you don't have the EQ, the emotional ability to connect with people, game over.
There's a book that I recommend called Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Oh my God, I read that. I read that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And as far as networking in the film industry, there's Face to Face by Brian Grazer. Brian Grazer, he's Ron Howard's producer. They've produced a lot of films together. So he has a lot of great tips there. So another advantage that I've utilized is I'm not just networking in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they say I'm an actor, I'm a filmmaker, I'm just going to stay in my realm. With myself, I'm a social butterfly. So I have friends everywhere, and everybody who knows me personally and professionally, they say, "Hey, Isabelo's the man that knows everyone."
Yep.
So, I mean, in that regard, that's really set me up in the best of ways. And a
Yes.
lot of people, I would highly encourage a lot more people to be more open-minded like that.
Definitely. I love that. So I always talk to my students about, the importance of not just having our industry, not just being around fellow actors and stuff, or even not just our industry. So I'm very blessed. My mom is an entrepreneur coach. So I grew up with all of those conversations in the house, and, I'm still her assistant. I still help her co-teach some of her classes and stuff sometimes. But learning all of those really important business skills, networking with other people outside of the industry, because sometimes the people outside of the industry are the ones that have a little bit more cash flow that might be interested in partnering. And that's exactly what's happening with my current company is, I'm partnering with somebody who I met at just an entrepreneur, communications and sales training kind of a thing. And now we're working together full time on, technology for the entertainment industry. So you never know where opportunity is going to come from.
Exactly. And there's a project that I have in development called Proving Ground,
Yeah, what's
which
that?
has Dominique Swain, Vincent M. Ward, and it's directed by Joel Bender. Joel Bender is an old school producer from the 70s. He produced a film called Carla. And Carla, it stars Laura Prepon as a serial killer. So it's a true crime story. But Joel Bender, he produced his first feature film was called Gas Pump Girls. And he approached a lot of investors, and he told me that surprisingly, it was a rabbi that financed the film. So
Oh
you
my
can
God, that's
approach
amazing.
different institutions, finance institutions, or other avenues, get rejected, but it was a rabbi out of not affiliated with the film industry, who was able to finance his first feature. So you have to think outside the box. You have to think outside of that and expand your horizons.
Awesome. Oh my
And
God.
also, you have a better quality of life as well.
Yeah.
When you're more social.
Well, I feel like, so in high school, when I was starting to look at schools to go to and everything, my theater teacher, who, I mean, incredible theater program and stuff, but the guy's background was he was in the military, but he ran us like a military. And so he was telling all of us, he's like, that's cool if you want to go to a conservatory, but, if you want to go and study, at a university or, someplace else, take classes while living elsewhere, it brings more richness to what you're doing because you're meeting people from other industries, you're having other life experiences, you're not just closed into one lane. And so yeah, it's really a fantastic opportunity and skill set to be able to interact, have those arts conversations, if you will, outside of just the arts, and understanding how they connect to the rest of the world, especially when you're trying to get business ventures and stuff off the ground, because sometimes not everybody speaks art for the sake of art. Like there's, other ways of benefiting and having it connect to other avenues and being, yep, I hear you on that one. Well, awesome. Well, so I guess I'll jump into, what we're up to and why I found you, and why we're having our call today and stuff. So like I said, I'm, business coach and teacher, and I've been particularly helping the acting industry and my students really understand business skills in addition. And while I've been a teacher, I continually get the question of, actors coming up to me and asking, is this legit site? Is this a scam? Is this a real course? Is this blah, blah, blah? And so, if it's one that I immediately know, then I can say yes, or I end up spending a bunch of time doing research on their behalf because I love them and I want to make sure that they're being safe. And I don't know about you, but I've been really close to being scammed a few times, and I'm like, I don't want anybody else to go through that. And so inadvertently, this is kind of built into a full business situation of what we're doing. So we're wanting to be, or we are neutral. We're Switzerland. We want to be that third party that is recommending, other sites and other opportunities for people. So what we've done is we have, 2 spaces right now. And so they're essentially search engines. So one of them is if you have any online courses or anything like that, somebody can come to us and say, hey, are there any live courses? Are there any online that are in this specific category or anything like that? And so if you have any courses, we'd love to put them up. That's our gift to you is, like having more people drive to you and make sure that they know what you're up to and those kinds of stuff. And then the other lane that we have is for castings. And so we've been partnering with other casting sites, and we've been working to become the Expedia of casting, if you will. So people can go and type in all of their search criteria one time, the age, gender, location, you know the drill. And instead of having to do that for individual 10 or 15 sites, or most of them only 2 or 3, which that always, I'm like, you guys, there's way more opportunities out there. So this way they can just go to one place. And what it does is the casting is still connected to the original site, but now they just know about it. And so we send them over to your site. And so that's what we're doing. We just are seeking to educate people as to everything that is out there for them. And it just is a direct link back to, whoever the parent of that original company or opportunity is, so that they're getting more notice and more connection with more actors. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
I do like this approach of the Actors Code, where you're addressing the mindset of actors, because a lot of people at conservatories such as UCB or Stella Adler, they can understand how to become an actor, get into the mindset and become vulnerable, but they lack the business acumen. So with this approach that you're teaching them to be more entrepreneurial, this can ensure their success. Now, with a lot of my manager and agent friends, they get inundated with, hundreds of emails, from prospective talent. But the thing is, what's the differentiating factor?
Yeah.
You have to, the star meter is something that's considered by casting directors.
Pro, the star meter and IMDb. Yep.
Exactly. Also social media presence. And Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa Stark on Game of Thrones, she had said that she was casted because she had a larger social media following than some other actors. Well, she did a great job in the show regardless, but I mean, that's a reality a lot of actors have to face. So you have to be socially active, and you have to be involved in your career, and not just concede everything to the management and your agents.
Sure. Oh yeah. It's one of my teachers, she wrote the book, Self-Management for Actors. And so that was something that I started out with, when I was maybe 10 years ago or something. And it's your company, it's your business. You need to learn how to manage it for yourself and find your own opportunities. And I think, that's also part of, what is developing, our tech and our app, which the name is, so, we're the Actors Code, yes, but what we're doing is, it's called Act Now. So it's the Actors Casting Technology, or the Actors Course Technology. And so, that's really what I noticed for a lot of actors is, they either only know 1 or 2 sites, and that's where they're looking for their own opportunities, or they're just relying on agents and managers. And I'm like, you guys, there's so much more opportunity for yourself out there. So much more opportunity for yourself out there. So if you're, educated as to what's going on in the business, you're being able to network with other people. And I know some people get scared. Like, I appreciate that you brought up, star meter and social media and stuff. And some people either get scared about that, or they put so much weight and emphasis on it that they are missing the rest of it. So, I definitely seek to kind of help them through that as a process, and not like an immediate, all-encompassing goal to build those 2 things. But, you can work through that gradually, and it builds. It does.
Right. But then again, we do live in a world where SAG-AFTRA is signing influencers nowadays. And a lot of the influencers, in my personal opinion, they lack talent. But then again, their selling point is a visceral response from just the quick comedy bits. Whenever Vine was made, like 10 years ago, that's how they started out. That's how King Bach, however you pronounce his name, started out, and a bunch of those influencers.
Oh gosh, wow.
There's those 7-second videos this quick visceral response, and you didn't really connect with them emotionally. It was just boom, there's this, boom, there's that, like the Billy Mays. And
Yeah.
and wait,
Yeah,
there's more.
so it is true. So then, that's what I've noticed. Why I talk to my students about, like, just hold off on SAG after till until they're really inviting you in, because don't, first of all, don't worry about competition, because at the end of the day, you're the only person that looks, sounds, and thinks like you. So if your uniqueness is what's going to really find you your opportunities. So I seek to help them match up, what is it about them that's special, and go find a role that matches that, versus go apply for everything and hope. Like, no, be strategic. Like, there's actual, business strategy and stuff behind things. But yeah, so if this is true, there are the influencers and stuff that are getting, traction over other people in some ways. And if that's not the full avenue, if that's not, who you are, then we just need to figure out what is your strength, and we, go find way. And you are going to inadvertently have to learn other skill sets. Like, you are going to have to learn something about social media and stuff. But I think what I've noticed with some of my students that come in is they're overwhelmed with, they're like, there's 500,000 things I need to be doing to start this business. And I'm like, whoa, let's, step back. What is your, what's your marketing and branding? What is your, what are you trying to get accomplished? Then we work backwards, versus, I just want to be a star. And I'm like, but what does that mean? Like, you need to be specific about things. So yes, yes, business it's show business for sure.
And specificity is very key. Let's say if somebody's typecasting, casting director's typecasting a role, you need to be a certain archetype. But then if you're on the opposite side of the spectrum, that can be something that you can utilize to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. It's
the police academy guy, Winslow. If that's his name, yeah, Winslow. Robert, forgot his name, but the police academy guy, Winslow, he's a man of 1,000 voices. And so that's what really made him stand out in his career. And if you're trying to be a Fonz, 40 years later, that's an overdone archetype. There's so many Elvis impersonators, so many Brad Pitt-esque pretty boys. So you have to find a way to differentiate yourself.
You have to be you. And I'm really glad that it's interesting that you should bring up this subject and everything. So that takes me to, full transparency. I want you guys to understand how our business is operating. It's not. So what we're doing is, the vast majority of what we want to do is, gift the actors the opportunity to go look at these places, and, gift our business owner partnerships and stuff the ability to be seen. So one aspect of our, marketing is like, hey, if you can, we would appreciate if you put a post about us on social media, or, add us to your newsletter, that kind of stuff. But the other thing that we do is, with the castings, what we're noticing is happening is, a lot of actors, they go from, oh, I'm looking at 1 or 2 sites and I'm getting 10 roles a day that I can submit to. But versus now, we're offering them, right now it's under 10, but it'll be dozens, pretty soon here. We're continuing to have more and more conversations. And so what's happening is they're like, holy mother of goodness, what do? I have like 50 plus things that I have to apply today. And so suddenly it's like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. And so what we do is exactly what you were talking about is, you need to find out, how to differentiate yourself, how to, stand out. And so I work with my actors to find out what is unique about you. What is your specialness? What is your innate personality? And, if we want to go down to the word of type, I know some people don't like that word, but, we find out what is your brand, your vibe, your personality. And then I help them connect to roles and stuff that have that similar brand and vibe and feel, so that as they're getting, started, they get to play from their strengths. And then how it is when you're a well-known actor, then they want to see, okay, what else you can do. But when you're just getting started, like, play to your strengths by all means. So that's what we do. That's our additional service. Like they can go and search all the castings and the courses and stuff for free. But if they do want, some additional insight on and coaching in terms of like, help, I have like 100 roles to submit to today. What do I do? We can break it down for them. We have automated systems and different things. I can tell you a little bit more about that if you want, where we can say, hey, here are the 5 or 10 that you really should focus your energy on. And, statistically speaking, from our experience in casting and from our research and stuff, these are the roles that you should spend your time focusing on, and they will, that's where to spend your time and energy to speed up the process. So, yeah.
Well, for most actors, the actor's code sounds like a win-win situation. But even with all of the resources and with a kick-ass agent and manager, there can also be some things that make rise. So I have some horror stories. So with casting talent, as an agent, I've booked my clients on network television episodes, also on runway shows, some modeling gigs across the spectrum. And I've been doing I had some musicians that I was working on booking on tours. One of my clients is former client, is a very talented individual who I was negotiating a multi-state tour. And she was very talented, but she had a lot of personal issues, which I learned about. And she self-destructed when I had the deals on the table. Mm-hmm. So that's something to consider. I had another client of mine who he's a former FBI agent, seriously. And I booked him on a couple of commercials and he turned them down. I understand you can be specific, but sometimes you do have to take a role, especially if you don't have a reel. So you have to be proactive and take something. You can't just be a diva and say, I want my first film to be an Oscar movie. No, you have to, it's iterative. You have to work with your agents and managers. Mm-hmm. So there's that ego, that aspect of ego. Some actors, they have this ego and they say, I will be this role. Yes. But sometimes you have to manage your expectations. And that's the reality of the industry. You have to manage your expectations, hone your craft, utilize resources that Jana's offering through the Actors Code. And you have to get over analysis paralysis. Yeah. Now, I've spoken with a lot of actors who they've spent, 10 years in some conservatories. Mm-hmm. And they say, I'm not ready. They can read The Power of the Actor They can read The Power of the Actor by Ivana Chubak and do all this stuff. And then they go through these mental loopholes. And they're in this in that state of mind, but if they don't take action and move forward, and they're not proactive with their career, then they're just going to stagnate.
Amen. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, and it's so true. And so that's I see actors doing exactly what you're talking about. They get themselves stuck. They actually are starting to get the offers and then they're turning them down because they're not what they're interested in. Or they're spending so much time applying to just everything that they're not getting any offers, that they're trying to be 500 different things on their social media. And you're like, calm down, and get focused. So yeah, it really is about how to blend those two really well, is knowing when to say yes to, obviously there are going to be times when you have to turn down something for scheduling, or you have to turn down something because it's still no pay and you have been booking like high paying stuff for 6 years, and this no pay situation doesn't even have any kind of a, like a networking building. Like it's just some kid down the street who wanted to, there's those kinds of things. Like there's strategy of, when to take on new projects. But yes, definitely in the beginning, you should be way more open to saying yes than being so stuck on your tiny little one line. So I think that I'm interrupting myself. I'm getting so excited. Yeah, it's definitely so, that's the kind of education that I'm really passionate about. I don't think the word typecasting is not a bad, but what I do see people is getting stuck in one lane is they're just like, well, I have to play the mom. I have to play the mom. I am the mom, the mom, the mom. And I'm like, okay, please read all of these breakdowns today. How many mom roles do you see? And they might be looking through, 100 and find like 5. And they're like, I'll apply for those 5. And I'm like, okay, well, can you tell me a little bit more about the mom? And they're like, well, the mom is sweet and she's caring and she, looks out for people and she wants to do the right thing. And I'm like, okay, now read all of the breakdowns. Who else has those personalities? And they're like, oh, well, I guess this nurse over here and this, best friend over here. And so next thing they know, instead of being so stuck on the mom, they understand what that, that type is, that personality, that everything that it encompasses. And then, they have more opportunities for themselves. So it's so interesting how, all of those things can tie together. And I totally understand where it can get confusing, where, you hear one point we're saying, yes, do open yourselves up. And then other times we're saying, yes, get specific. And so it's just about understanding what the ultimate goal is and what the strategies are behind that to bring it all together in the most efficient and way that's going to help your career go faster in terms of time, energy, and finances. So yes, so passionate about that. So a little bit more, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Casting Talent, because when I was looking it up, it seemed like there were a couple of different things you guys did. So, there is kind of the agency aspect of it where you help, find other people some opportunities. But is it also kind of like an open platform where somebody could create their own profile and start submitting themselves for some opportunities?
Casting Talent is an agency. It's not a platform.
Okay.
Just want to clarify that.
Yes. Okay. So that was what I was trying to get clear about. So awesome. So in terms of how do people find out and get to work with you?
Well, they can reach out to me via my email, which is manager@castingtalent.com.
Manager. And so, okay, cool. So and what kind of areas do you like to specifically work with? Do you need to be, physically close to somebody location wise and stuff?
Well, we actually have a client who's in Sweden.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not quite.
Yeah, she's a model client, but now with a globalized internet, we can communicate with different CDs and we can book different gigs. We had attempted a Kingfisher commercial. So we had some clients that we had submitted for a Kingfisher commercial. We didn't book them, but I'm just expressing the scale of the industry right now. So we have clients in different states and different countries. So the world is pretty open right now.
Yeah, so you're pretty cool. Like it's, okay, I haven't met this client in person, but I still feel comfortable, submitting them for different opportunities. Is there any particular, is there any particular area that you do tend to focus on more? Because I know since you're physically in, LA and California, is that where you tend to do most of your work and relationships?
Well, my network expands to the East Coast and to the West Coast. As I've spent several years working in New York, I used to live in Jamaica, Queens, and yeah, and my network expands out to West Palm Beach, Florida, and when I see some casting calls, or when I leverage my personal relationships and say I think my client would be an appropriate fit for a certain role, that's how I work.
Nice.
Not to mention, I'm also a producer and the owner of Alpha Fantana with my production company. So I own Casting Talent LLC and Alpha Fantana LLC. So I sometimes, it's a little bit of inside trading, I guess. Sometimes I book my clients on my own jobs that I produce, but I get my clients booked.
Yeah, and well, that happens for me. I still take casting jobs and stuff, and there are just times when I'm like, I'm already working with my students and they're great, they would be great for this role, so I'm going to put them in. And let's make this like very different. Do you remember a few years ago when there was the whole like debacle in California with the pay to play type things?
Yes.
Okay, so people watching, it's okay to go to casting directors and, take their classes and learn from them and stuff. That is what you should be doing. You should be enjoying the networking opportunities that kind of stuff brings. So like being a part of an agency that might be connected to a production company, that's fantastic. what got shut down was the kinds of things where people just paid to basically send them their headshot resume. And, you know, they didn't really get an educational component or anything on top of it. They just said, oh yeah, I'll bring you in for an audition. That kind of stuff got shut down. But the education, the, you know, people that already have those natural connections, that's all good to go. And it sounds like you know, you get to know your clients, and that's completely different. So yeah.
And
Yes.
as an agent, I assess their reel and their headshots, and I have a personal conversation with them. I gauge their interests, their career direction, their personal, you know, belief systems, what they want. So that's everything I consider. I don't just assign anybody.
Sure.
I recognize potential and talent, but I've been wrong before. And again, it goes back to, you know, an individual's will. They have to have the desire to push forward. I've had previous clients that I had to fire because I had money on the table, cash in hand, and their flakiness reflected poorly on myself.
Yes, it does.
So that's a wake-up call for a lot of actors. You have to tone down the grandiosity if you can.
Yes.
And you have to be humble.
Business owner. You know, you got to run your business.
And you have to appreciate your coaches, like Jana and the Actors Code. You have to appreciate the resources. It's a lot of work for them to put everything together in a digestible system for a lot of these up-and-coming actors. So you have to have gratitude. You have to study. You have to do the work.
Yes. Yeah, do it. Just so what do you guys so what kind of ages and stuff do you work with? You know, because I have students, you know, everybody from like, I have 13-year-olds all the way up to people in their 60s and stuff. Do you have a sweet spot that you all try and focus around?
I've had the offer to manage children in the past, but I've been focused on adults at this point in time.
Yeah, I know the kids stuff, that's like a whole other game. You know, you have to do other stuff like all the special accounts so that they get paid, and what do you do with the teachers and all that. So been working to explain some of that to my younger students of how those two things get balanced. And but I do appreciate what you said about at the end of the day, it really goes to, you know, what is the person's work ethic, their, you know, their ability to get things done, that personality, that, you know, responsibility aspect. Because I do have, you know, either some students that are newer to the industry, like they're in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, and they're like, oh, I don't have much experience, or teenagers that, oh, I don't have much experience. And I'm like, you guys, it's really about using what you do have and showing that you are being proactive and you are taking action, you are doing good work. And then how do you use that little bit to grow from it? And you can explain that to an agent and manager. Like, we get, if you haven't been, you know, in the industry forever and ever, amen. If you're, you know, in your 40s and you're switching over from being an FBI agent or something, you know, how do you play the cards that you're dealt and be responsible about it? So I mean, does that, yes, the responsibility aspect comes into play when you're looking at who you are signing and stuff?
Very much so. And as I learned from the past, I worked with some clients who were not accountable, and they self-destructed, or they wasted my time when I would submit them, and I would book them on gigs, and they would flake out. It's the ego, and I understand.
And you know, sorry, keep going.
But this is a business, and I will not go down with their ship. We as I guess as the guides, so to speak, you know, we're the guides. Yes. So we can offer the resources and the path, but we can only walk a horse to the water trough. If they won't drink the water and do the work themselves, it's not on us. We did our part.
It's so true. And you know, so I love what you're doing, and the importance of, you know, having agents and managers. And so I feel maybe kind of a little bit of what we're building out and what we're continuing to build out on our end and stuff is, you know, for those people a little bit before they have an agent or manager, or they do have one, but they're trying to also be proactive in their own way, we can serve them to make sure that they understand what resources are available to them so that they are continuing to submit, yes, for those smaller projects and stuff. But as an agent, do you feel like when you see somebody doing submissions for themselves, doing projects for themselves, like, does that, perk your interest to want to work with them some more, or?
Well, the industry standard for the longest time is that management and agents will not accept unsolicited offers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hierarchy for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So casting directors, they'll work with the managers and with the agents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to deal with the ego. The agents, they handle the business.
Mm-hmm.
And an actor may submit and they may overstep themselves or insult the casting director or somebody else. So you have to be very careful. So, I mean, there's still the hierarchy in getting booked.
Mm-hmm.
But as an actor, you can be proactive and you can go to acting conservatories. You can read the books. You can sign up for the Actors Code right now. Today, sign up theactorscode.com and educate yourself. It also helps to have friends in your industry, so you can run lines together and do different exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to work on your craft and you have to live and breathe and embody it.
Yes.
But you also have to be realistic too. You can't just be caught up in this grandiosity and say, I'm going to be an amazing A-lister without any of the work done.
Yeah.
You have to do the work. You have to educate yourself and you have to network.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be a people person. I know there's a lot of introverts right now that they want to be actors, but how can you be an actor if you can't communicate? Having communication skills is one of the most vital skills that you can have in your life. It improves all aspects. If you're unable to communicate, then how can you ever get what you want?
Yeah, because if you don't ask, it's not going to, maybe it'll fall in your lap, but the chances are going to be a lot higher if you can actually ask for what you want and, build those relationships. Oh, gosh. Well, okay, so speaking of building relationships, thank you so much for speaking today. I am looking forward to, sharing parts of this conversation with, our community and different things. Always good for them to hear from other industry experts, why we do what we do and, what is working and stuff. But I would like to know how we can be of service to you, if there's a way that, what can we do to you in terms of to make sure more people know about you, or what else is going on in your world that we can be of service to?
Well, from Alpha Fantana, my production company,
Mm-hmm.
I'm developing a TV series based off a best-selling author's book. And he is an expert in behavioral psychology and interrogation. That is called Phrase 7. I would highly recommend everybody go to phrase7.com and buy a copy of that book.
Phrase7.com.
As somebody who appreciates psychology and the mind, it's a great book. It's a great thriller. It's a piece of fiction. But as an actor, it's very accessible because it talks about human behavior and having certain access to information that can be deadly. So actors, if you learn your skill set, you can impersonate anybody. And basically in this world, in the Phrase 7 world, there's this extra governmental agency that deploys these persuasion skills for counter-terrorist activities. So as an actor who has to put on different masks for different roles, you can learn a lot from that book.
Wow. Okay, so Phrase 7, F-R-A...
PHRASESEVEN.com.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay, one more time.
Phrase7.com.
Phrase. Oh, Lord help me. I thought we were saying on the fray kind of a thing. Phrase 7. Okay, thank you so much. So we'll check that out and stuff. And this has been wonderful today. Thank you so much again for meeting on an early morning. And I'll put together a little something and I'll find you on the Facebook and let you know when we have this posted.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it, Jana.
Looking forward to it too. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.